Imagine a global chess game, where the kings are two superpowers, and the board is the entire world. Welcome to the Cold War. The year is 1945, World War II has just ended. The world heaves a sigh of relief, but the respite is short-lived. Two superpowers rise from the ashes, the United States and the Soviet Union. They stand at opposite ends of the ideological spectrum, with democracy and capitalism on one side, and communism on the other. The differences are irreconcilable, the tensions palpable. Europe, the heart of the previous world wars, becomes a symbol of this new conflict. An iron curtain descends, dividing the continent into the West and the East. The West falls under the influence of the United States, the East under the Soviet Union. It's a tense stalemate, a cold war, where no shots are fired, but the threat of a nuclear catastrophe looms large. And so the stage was set for a global game of brinkmanship, with the world watching every move. What if a single decision could result in the end of the world as we know it? This isn't the plot of a dystopian novel. This was the very real threat during the peak of the Cold War, a time when the stakes were high and the world was playing a dangerous game of poker with nuclear weapons. The arms race was more than a contest of who had the most toys. It was a chilling ballet of power and strategy, with the United States and the Soviet Union locked in a deadly dance. It wasn't just about building bigger bombs, it was about creating a deterrent, an insurance policy against aggression. The concept was simple, yet terrifying: mutually assured destruction. If you launch your nukes, we'll launch ours and nobody wins. A game of chicken on a global scale, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. The development of nuclear weapons was a technological marvel, yet it cast a long and ominous shadow. The world had witnessed the destructive power of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The specter of such devastation happening on a global scale was a constant reminder of the stakes involved. The arms race was not just about power, but about survival. And then came the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days in October 1962, the world held its breath, as the United States and the Soviet Union stood on the brink of nuclear war. The Soviets had placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. The United States responded with a naval blockade. The standoff was intense. The world watched and waited, hoping for a peaceful resolution. The crisis was eventually resolved, but the threat of nuclear war lingered. The arms race continued, and the world remained a ticking time bomb, waiting for the fuse to be lit. It was a time of fear, a time of uncertainty, a time when the world was held hostage by the threat of nuclear annihilation. The world held its breath, as it teetered on the brink of nuclear annihilation. The Cold War was not just a political struggle, it was a battle for survival, a test of the human spirit, and in the face of such overwhelming odds, humanity chose life over destruction. The Cold War may be over, but its lessons are as relevant today as they were then. But the competition wasn't just on Earth, the Cold War also took to the stars. Enter the space race, a celestial battlefield where the United States and the Soviet Union sought to outdo each other in the endless expanse of the cosmos. This was not merely a battle of rockets and satellites, it was a war of technological prowess and propaganda, with each side eager to claim the high ground, literally and figuratively. In the late 50s, the Soviets made the first move, launching Sputnik into orbit. This beach ball-sized satellite, emitting a simple beeping signal, was a game-changer. It was the equivalent of the USSR flexing its muscles for the world to see, proving they had the technological might to reach beyond Earth's atmosphere. The message was clear: if they could send a satellite into space, they could send a nuclear weapon anywhere on the planet. Cue the American response. Not to be outdone, the United States ramped up its efforts. The creation of NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in 1958 marked a significant step in this cosmic competition. The nation was determined to catch up, and ultimately, to lead. And lead they did, with one of the most iconic moments in human history. On July 20, 1969, the world watched as Neil Armstrong took his one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The moon landing, broadcast live to millions around the globe, was the ultimate propaganda victory. It was a triumph not just of American technology, but of the American spirit. The space race encapsulated the essence of the Cold War, a silent yet deafening clash of ideologies, technology, and national pride. It was a testament to human ingenuity and determination, fueled by the need for dominance and the fear of obliteration. As humans took their first steps on the moon, the Cold War was reaching new heights. As we dive deeper into the world of history and legend, I invite you to become a part of our community. If you're enjoying this content and want to stay connected with us, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to Chronomancer AI. We've got more fascinating historical journeys waiting for you. While the superpowers avoided direct conflict, their influence was felt around the globe. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the proxy wars fought in Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. These were not just regional conflicts but chess matches played by the superpowers on a global scale. Let's start with Korea, the land of the morning calm, which was anything but calm during the early 50s. The Korean War saw the United States and its allies supporting South Korea against North Korea, backed by China and the Soviet Union. This was a brutal conflict, leaving over 2 million people dead, and the Korean peninsula divided to this day. Then we moved to the lush jungles of Vietnam. Here the United States found itself embroiled in a long and costly conflict, supporting South Vietnam against the North, which was backed by the Soviet Union and China. This war was marked by the heavy use of chemical weapons, massive civilian casualties, and a seismic shift in American public opinion about the country's role on the international stage. Finally, let's traverse to the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, where in the late 70s and throughout the 80s, the Soviet Union waged a bitter war against the Mujahideen resistance, supported by the United States and other Western countries. This conflict was a quagmire for the Soviets, contributing to their economic strain and eventual withdrawal, but it also sowed the seeds for future conflicts in the region. These proxy wars were not just about the countries in which they were fought. They were about the balance of power between the United States and the Soviet Union. Each conflict was a battle for influence, a test of resolve, and a measure of the lengths to which these superpowers would go in their ideological struggle. The human cost was staggering, with millions of lives lost and entire regions destabilized. The ripple effects continue to be felt today, as these nations still grapple with the after effects of these conflicts. These wars might have been fought on foreign soil, but their impact reverberated around the world. The echoes of these proxy wars still resonate in our modern world, a testament to the far-reaching effects of the Cold War. But even the strongest walls can crumble. And crumble it did, the literal and metaphorical Iron Curtain that had divided the world for decades. This was the twilight of the Cold War, a time of monumental change and hope for a more peaceful future. In the heart of Europe, the Berlin Wall, that concrete symbol of division and oppression, was about to meet its end. The year was 1989. The people of Berlin, separated for 28 long years, found themselves at the cusp of a new era. They took to the streets, chisel and hammer in hand, and began chipping away at the wall. The world watched in awe as the wall fell brick by brick, a testament to the indomitable spirit of freedom. As the Berlin Wall crumbled, so too did the Soviet Union. This once mighty superpower was facing its own internal pressures. Economic instability, political unrest, and a growing desire for freedom among its satellite states were pushing the Soviet Union towards dissolution. At the helm of these historic changes were two leaders, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. Reagan, with his unyielding stance against communism, famously demanded, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Gorbachev, on the other hand, was the catalyst for change within the Soviet Union. His policies of glasnost or openness and perestroika or restructuring were instrumental in ushering in the end of the Cold War. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union officially dissolved. The Cold War was over. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the end of the Cold War was not the end of the story. The world had changed dramatically. New powers rose, old tensions remained, and the geopolitical landscape was forever altered. The Cold War may have ended, but its echoes can still be heard today. The world we live in today is a direct result of those tumultuous decades. The fall of the Iron Curtain was just the beginning of a new chapter in world history. So, what happens when the game ends? Who picks up the pieces? When the Cold War curtain fell, it left a legacy that reverberated across the globe. The political landscape shifted dramatically. Democracy spread like wildfire, but so did economic instability, especially in countries that had been part of the Soviet bloc. The end of the Cold War didn't mean the end of tensions between East and West either. The chess game just morphed into a new form, with different power dynamics and new pawns on the board. Culturally, the world experienced a blending like never before. Western pop culture infiltrated the East and vice versa. This cultural diffusion, while often seen as a symbol of unity, also sparked debates about cultural preservation and identity. In essence, the Cold War's legacy is a complex web of changes and challenges that are still being untangled today. The Cold War was more than a chapter in history. It was a global standoff that shaped the world we live in today. As we dive deeper into the world of history and legend, I invite you to become a part of our community. If you're enjoying this content and want to stay connected with us, don't forget to hit that like button and consider subscribing to Chronomancer AI. We've got more fascinating historical journeys waiting for you.